The cantina was dark and smoky, just the way most aliens liked it. Murphy's bar sat on the outer ring of Nexus Station, far from the fancy diplomatic quarters and clean corporate offices. This was where the real business happened, the kind that required handshake deals and no questions asked. Jake Murphy wiped down a glass behind the bar counter. The human had owned this place for 8 years now, ever since he left the Earth Defense Corps. His weathered face showed the scars of old battles, and his gray hair was always slightly messy. But his eyes were sharp, always watching every corner of his establishment. Tonight was busier than usual. 3 different alien species sat at separate tables, each group keeping to themselves. That was normal. What made Jake slightly nervous was the tension in the air. You could almost taste it. At the corner table near the back wall, 5 humans sat together. They were Jake's regular customers, the crew of a small freight ship called the Iron Horse. Captain Tom Brady led the group, a stocky man with calloused hands and a quick smile. His crew had just finished a successful cargo run from the mining colonies to the inner systems. "Another round, Jake," Tom called out, raising his empty bottle. His crew laughed at something Lisa Chun had said. She was their engineer, small but tough, with grease always under her fingernails. Next to her sat Ben Walker, their navigator, a tall, thin man who could plot a course through any asteroid field. The other 2 crew members, Dave Smith and Mike Jones, were loading specialists who could handle cargo in any gravity. Jake brought over 5 bottles of Earth beer. It was expensive this far from home, but the freight crew had money to spend tonight. "Good run?" Jake asked. "The best," Tom grinned. "Mining colony paid triple rate for emergency medical supplies. We made the run in half the expected time." "Careful not to celebrate too loud," Jake warned quietly. "Got some Corvan mercenaries at table 6. They've been drinking since afternoon shift." Tom glanced over at the large reptilian aliens. Corvans were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They had thick green skin, powerful claws, and bad tempers. This group wore battle armor even while drinking, which was never a good sign. "We'll keep it quiet," Tom promised. At another table, a group of Thel traders conducted business in their musical language. The Thel looked like giant insects with 4 arms and compound eyes. They controlled much of the galaxy's trade networks and rarely caused trouble. Tonight, their leader was a merchant named Vex, who Jake recognized as a regular customer. The 3rd alien group worried Jake the most. A mix of different species sat together at the largest table: bounty hunters, smugglers, and pirates from across the galaxy. They came to Nexus Station to plan jobs and split profits. Jake served them because business was business, but he always kept one hand near the shotgun under his bar. The cantina's main lighting came from dim red bulbs that created long shadows. Alien music played softly from speakers in the corners. Most of the customers preferred it dark, better for private conversations and deals that officially never happened. Grix, the bartender, moved between tables serving drinks. The old Nexus native had 6 arms and could carry more glasses than any human, but he moved slowly now. His blue skin was wrinkled with age, and his large eyes had seen everything the galaxy could offer. He'd worked at Murphy's since Jake bought the place. "Trouble coming," Grix whispered as he passed Jake at the bar. His voice sounded like wind through cave tunnels. Jake looked around the room again. The Coven mercenaries were getting louder. Their leader, a massive warrior named Brock, was arguing with someone at another table. Jake couldn't hear the words, but he recognized the angry tone. The argument was with Vex, the Thel merchant. Trade disputes were common in places like this, but they usually stayed verbal. Tonight felt different. Brock stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly across the metal floor. He was over 7 feet tall and built like a tank. His battle armor was scarred from real combat, and the weapons on his belt were not for show. "You cheat me, bug." Brock's voice boomed across the cantina. All conversation stopped. Vex's compound eyes glittered in the red light. The contract was clear, Corvin. Your team failed to deliver on time. We delivered. Brock slammed his fist on the table, making bottles jump. Your counting is wrong. Jake moved slowly along the bar, getting closer to his shotgun. In 8 years of running this place, he'd learned to read the signs. This was about to get ugly. The other Corvin mercenaries stood up, supporting their leader. There were 6 of them total, all armed and dangerous. The bounty hunters at the large table watched with interest but didn't move. They were waiting to see how this played out. Tom and his crew tried to stay invisible in their corner. Humans were still considered a minor species by most aliens. They'd only been part of galactic civilization for 30 years, and many aliens saw them as weak newcomers who didn't belong among the established powers. Payment was fair, Vex insisted, but his musical voice had a nervous edge now. The Thel were traitors, not fighters. Fair? Brock laughed, a harsh sound like breaking rocks. Nothing fair about cheating warriors. Jake saw the first punch coming, but couldn't stop it. Brock's massive fist caught Vex in the center of his insect-like head, sending the traitor flying backward. Vex crashed into empty chairs and landed hard on the floor near the human's table. The cantina erupted in shouts. Movement. The other Corvin mercenaries rushed forward, ready to support their leader. The bounty hunters stood up for a better view. Some customers near the door started leaving quickly. Tom Brady immediately knelt beside the injured Thel merchant. Vex was conscious but dazed, green blood trickling from a cut on his head. Easy there, Tom said gently. Let me help you up. Lisa grabbed a clean cloth from their table and pressed it against Vex's cut. The other human crew members formed a protective circle, not threatening anyone but ready to defend themselves if needed. That's when Brock noticed them. What is this? The Corvin warrior turned his attention to the humans. Pinkskins helping. The cheater? Jake felt his stomach drop. This was exactly what he'd been worried about. They're just helping an injured customer, Jake called out from behind the bar. No need for more trouble. Brock ignored him. The massive alien stepped closer to the humans, his clawed hands flexing. The other Corvins spread out behind him, surrounding the area near the humans' table. Soft little creatures, Brock sneered. Playing hero for the bug? Tom stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible and non-threatening. The fight's between you and him. We're just making sure he doesn't bleed out on the floor. Humans, one of the other Corvins spat. Weak race thinks they belong with real warriors. The tension in the room became electric. Every alien in the cantina was watching now, waiting to see what would happen. Most had never seen humans in a real confrontation before. Jake's hand moved closer to his shotgun. This was his bar, and these were his customers. But 6 Corvin mercenaries against 6 humans didn't look like good odds, even with his help. The fight that was about to start would change everything. Tom Brady kept his voice calm and steady. Look, we don't want any trouble. We're just helping someone who got hurt. Brock stepped closer, his massive form casting a shadow over the humans. You think I care what you want, Pinkskin? This is warrior business. The injured Thel merchant, Vex, tried to sit up with Lisa's help. Green blood still trickled from his head wound, but he was alert enough to speak. The humans did nothing wrong, Vex said weakly. They only helped me. Nobody asked you, Bug, Brock snarled. He turned back to Tom. Your kind should learn to mind their own business. Dave Smith, one of the cargo handlers, started to stand up. Tom put a hand on his shoulder, keeping him seated. The last thing they needed was for this to get worse. We're minding our own business, Tom replied. Just having a drink in a public bar. The other Corvin mercenaries had formed a loose circle around the humans' table. They weren't pointing weapons yet, but their hands rested on their gun belts. The message was clear. The humans were surrounded. Jake watched from behind the bar, his jaw tight with worry. He'd seen this before on other stations. Humans were still new to galactic society, and some alien species saw them as easy targets. The Corvins were known for picking fights with anyone they thought was weak. Public bar? Brock laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the metal walls. This is Nexus Station, little human. Out here, only the strong survive. Ben Walker, the navigator, slowly reached for his cum device. If this went bad, someone needed to call station security. But one of the Corvins noticed the movement and shook his head with a warning growl. "No calls," the mercenary said. "Keep hands where we can see them." The bounty hunters at the large table were enjoying the show. One of them, a purple-skinned alien with 4 eyes, was even taking bets on what would happen next. Most of the money was going against the humans. 6 warriors against 6 humans, the alien bookie announced quietly. Odds are 15 to 1. Against the pink skins. Other customers in the bar had either left or moved to safer tables near the walls. Nobody wanted to get caught in whatever was about to happen. Grix, the old bartender, tried to approach with his hands raised peacefully. "Please, honored warriors, this is neutral ground. Station rules say no fighting." Brock turned on him with a snarl. "Old one, you want to join them on the floor?" Grix backed away quickly, his 6 arms trembling. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting emotional wouldn't help anyone. "What do you want?" Tom asked Brock. "Directly, we helped an injured customer, that's all." "What I want," Brock said, stepping even closer, "is for weak races to know their place. Humans think they're so special, coming into our galaxy with your little ships and your soft words." Mike Jones, the other cargo handler, whispered to his captain. "Tom, we should call for backup." "No cum calls," Brock ordered, having heard the whisper. "This stays between us." Lisa Chun finished cleaning Vex's wound and helped the Thel merchant. "Stand up. There. You should see a doctor, but the bleeding has stopped." "Thank you," Vex said gratefully. He looked at Brock with his compound eyes. The human showed kindness. Something you would not understand. That was the wrong thing to say. Brock's face twisted with rage. "Kindness? Is that what you call it?" He shoved Tom hard in the chest, sending the human captain stumbling backward into his chair. "Hey!" Dave Smith jumped to his feet, his fists clenched. 2 Corvin mercenaries immediately moved to block him, their hands on their weapons. The situation was escalating fast. "Sit down, human," one of them growled. "Before we make you sit down," Jake had seen enough. He reached under the bar for his shotgun, but another voice stopped him. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, barkeeper." Jake looked up to see a Corvin pointing a plasma rifle at him. When had they gotten behind the bar? He'd been watching the main group and missed one of them flanking around. "Smart human," the gunman said. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Tom got back to his feet slowly, rubbing his chest where Brock had shoved him. That was unnecessary. Was it? Brock grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Maybe next time you'll think before interfering in warrior business." The massive alien looked around the bar, making sure everyone was watching. This wasn't just about the fight with Vex anymore. This was about showing the galaxy that humans were weak. "You know what I think?" Brock announced loudly. "I think humans are the softest race in known space. All talk, no action. Your species should stick to carrying cargo and leave the real work." To real warriors, Tom's crew tensed behind him. These were freight haulers, but they'd all served in various Earth military units before going civilian. They knew how to fight, but 6 against 6 in a crowded bar wasn't good odds. "We're not looking for trouble," Tom repeated, but his voice had an edge now. "Too late for that." Brock laughed. "Trouble found you." The Corvin leader walked over to where Vex was standing with Lisa's help. Without warning, he grabbed the Thel merchant by the front of his robes and lifted him off the ground. "This bug owes me money," Brock announced. "Maybe I should take it out of his hide. Or maybe," he looked directly at Tom, I should take it out. Of yours. Put him down, Tom said firmly. Or what? Brock dropped Vex roughly, then turned to face Tom. You'll make me? The other customers in the bar held their breath. Even the bounty hunters had stopped taking bets. This was about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I'm asking nicely, Tom said. Don't make this worse than it has to be. Brock threw back his head and laughed. Asking nicely. Did you hear that, brothers? The human is asking nicely. The other Corvan mercenaries joined in the laughter. To them, politeness was weakness. In their culture, strength was the only thing that mattered. Here's what's going to happen, Brock said, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. You soft pink skins are going to get on your knees and apologize for interfering. Then you're going to pay me compensation for the insult. And if we don't? Ben asked quietly. Brock's grin turned predatory. Then we teach the galaxy what happens to weak races who don't know their place. Maybe we sell you to the slave markets on Wriggle Prime. Human slaves bring good money these days. That was the final straw. Tom Brady had spent 10 years in the Earth Defense Corps before becoming a freight captain. He'd fought pirates in the Outer Rim and rebels in the colony wars. He'd seen good people die because they tried to be reasonable with unreasonable enemies. Some lines couldn't be crossed. Last chance, Tom said quietly, his voice completely calm. Now, walk away. Brock leaned down until his reptilian face was inches from Tom's. Make me pink skin. The bar went completely silent except for the hum of the life support systems. Even the background music had stopped playing. Tom Brady looked into the alien warrior's eyes and smiled. Tom's smile was not friendly. It was the smile of a man who had made a decision. Okay, Tom said quietly. We tried to do this the easy way. What happened next shocked every alien in the bar. Tom Brady moved faster than Brock expected. His right hand shot up and grabbed the Corvan's throat, while his left drove hard into the alien's solar plexus. Brock, despite being twice Tom's size, doubled over in pain. Before the other Corvans could react, Tom's crew exploded into action. Dave Smith grabbed his metal chair and swung it like a club, catching the nearest Corvan across the head. The alien went down hard, blood flowing from a deep cut. Lisa Chun dove under the table and came up behind another mercenary. She had a broken bottle in her hand and drove it into the back of the Corvan's knee. The warrior screamed and fell forward. Ben Walker threw his drink into one alien's eyes, then followed up with a punch to the throat. The Corvan stumbled backward, gasping for air. Mike Jones flipped the heavy wooden table over, using it as a shield against the Corvan with the plasma rifle. The alien fired, but the energy bolt hit the thick wood instead of human flesh. The fight that the aliens expected to be quick and easy turned into chaos. Brock tried to grab Tom with his claws, but the human captain was already moving. Tom ducked under the swing and drove his elbow into Brock's ribs. The sound of cracking bone filled the air. You little, Brock started to say, but Tom cut him off with a headbutt to the nose. Green blood splattered across both of them. The other customers in the bar couldn't believe what they were seeing. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were new to the galaxy, peaceful traders and explorers. They weren't supposed to fight like this. Lisa rolled between another Corvan's legs and came up behind him. She grabbed a heavy metal serving tray from a nearby table and slammed it into the back of his head. The alien dropped like a stone. Behind you, Ben shouted to Dave. Dave spun around just as a Corvan swung a massive fist at his head. The human ducked and grabbed the alien's arm, using the warrior's own momentum to throw him into the bar. Bottles and glasses exploded as the Corvan crashed into them. Jake watched from behind the bar in amazement. He'd served in the Earth military, but he'd never seen civilians fight with such coordination. These freight haulers moved like a trained unit. The Corvan with the plasma rifle tried to get a clear shot, but Mike kept the overturned table between them. Every time the alien moved, Mike moved with him, keeping the wooden barrier in place. "Stand still," the gunman shouted in frustration. "Come and make me." Mike replied, grinning. Brock was bleeding from his nose and mouth, but he was far from finished. The massive warrior grabbed a bar stool and swung it at Tom's head. Tom rolled to the side, and the stool smashed into the wall. "You fight dirty," Brock snarled. "We fight to win," Tom replied, picking up a broken chair leg. The human captain jabbed the wooden stick into Brock's stomach, then brought it up to hit him under the chin. The Corvin's head snapped back, and he staggered. Ben found himself facing two Corvins at once. Instead of backing down, he grabbed a bottle of liquor and smashed it against the edge of a table. The broken glass made a perfect weapon. "Come on then," Ben said, holding the jagged bottle like a knife. The two aliens looked at each other uncertainly. This wasn't how the fight was supposed to go. Lisa had climbed onto another table and was throwing bottles at any Corvin who came near her friends. Her aim was perfect. Every bottle hit its target, usually in the head. "Duck," she yelled to Dave. Dave dropped to the floor just as a bottle flew over his head and smashed into a Corvin's face. The alien howled and clutched his eyes. The bounty hunters at the large table were no longer taking bets. They watched in silence as the humans systematically took apart the Corvin mercenaries. "This is impossible," one of them whispered. "Humans are supposed to be weak." "Tell that to the Corvins," another replied. Mike finally got tired of playing defense. When the gunman tried to circle around the table, Mike grabbed the edge and flipped it completely over. The heavy wood caught the alien in the chest and drove him backward into the wall. The plasma rifle went flying, sliding across the floor toward Jake behind the bar. "My turn," Jake said, picking up the weapon. But he didn't need to use it. The humans were winning. Tom had Brock backed against the wall now. The massive alien was bleeding from a dozen cuts and bruises. His armor was dented and cracked. "Had enough?" Tom asked, breathing hard but still ready to fight. Brock tried one last desperate attack, lunging forward with his claws extended. Tom sidestepped and brought his knee up into the alien's stomach. Brock folded over, gasping. Tom grabbed the back of Brock's head and slammed it down onto his rising knee. The Corvin leader collapsed to the floor and didn't get up. Around the bar, the other mercenaries were in similar condition. Some were unconscious. Others were groaning on the floor, too hurt to continue fighting. The whole fight had lasted less than 3 minutes. Dave Smith wiped blood from a cut on his cheek and looked around at the destruction. Well, that was interesting. Lisa jumped down from her table and checked on Vex, the fell merchant who had started the whole thing. "You okay?" "I am amazed," Vex replied, staring at the defeated Corvins. "I have never seen anything like this." Ben picked up an overturned chair and sat down heavily. Just another night in space. Mike looked at the unconscious aliens scattered around the floor. "Think we might have overdone it a little?" "They asked for it," Tom said simply. He walked over to where Brock lay bleeding. "Still think humans are weak?" Brock could only groan in response. The other customers in the bar sat in stunned silence. They had watched 6 humans defeat 6 Corvin warriors in hand-to-hand combat. It shouldn't have been possible. Corvins were known throughout the galaxy as fierce fighters. Their strength and combat skills were legendary. But they had been beaten by a crew of human freight haulers. Jake put the plasma rifle down and came out from behind the bar. "Everyone still breathing?" "We're good," Tom replied, checking his crew for serious injuries. They had cuts and bruises, but nothing major. The same couldn't be said for the Corvins. Rix approached cautiously, his 6 arms shaking. "Should I call station security?" Tom looked around at the mess they'd made. Broken furniture, shattered bottles, and unconscious aliens covered the floor. "Probably a good idea," he said. Outside Murphy's bar, Word was already spreading through Nexus Station. The humans had fought back. And they had won. Station security arrived 15 minutes later, moving fast through the corridors of Nexus Station. The call had come in as a major disturbance at Murphy's Bar, but nobody was prepared for what they found. Commander Kane led the security team through the bar's entrance. He was a tall, blue-skinned Nexus native with 4 arms and sharp eyes that missed nothing. In 20 years of station security, he thought he'd seen everything. He was wrong. 6 Corvan mercenaries lay scattered across the floor. Some were unconscious, others groaning in pain. All of them were bleeding. Broken furniture and shattered glass covered everything. The bar looked like a war zone. Standing in the middle of it all were 6 humans, calmly treating their minor cuts and bruises. "What happened here?" Commander Kane asked, his voice echoing through the destroyed cantina. Jake stepped forward from behind the bar. Fight broke out. The humans defended themselves. Kane looked at the unconscious Corvans, then at the humans, who barely seemed hurt. 6 humans did this to 6 Corvan warriors? "They started it," Tom Brady said simply, pressing a cloth against a cut on his knuckle. "We finished it." The security team's medic, a small reptilian alien named Dr. Hex, began checking on the injured Corvans. "This one has 3 broken ribs," he reported, examining Brack. "This one has a concussion. This one's knee is badly damaged." Kane walked around the bar, taking notes on his electronic pad. The evidence was clear. There had been a massive fight. But the results didn't make sense. "Commander," one of his officers called out, "You need to see this." The officer was standing near the security cameras that recorded everything in the bar. Kane walked over and looked at the small screen. "The whole fight is recorded," the officer explained. "Every second of it." Kane watched the footage in amazement. He saw the argument between Brock and the Thel merchant. He watched the confrontation escalate. Then he saw the humans fight back with a coordination and brutality that shocked him on the screen. He watched Tom Brady move like a trained warrior, using every dirty trick in the book. He saw Lisa Chun climb on tables and throw bottles with perfect aim. He watched Ben Walker fight 2 aliens at once and win. "How is this possible?" Kane muttered, watching the footage again. "Corvans are elite fighters." "Not elite enough," Dave Smith said from across the room. Dr. Hex finished examining all the injured Corvans. 6 warriors, all with multiple injuries. Broken bones, concussions, cuts that will need medical treatment. "They'll all survive, but they won't be fighting again anytime soon." Kane turned to Tom. "I need to understand what happened here. Start from the beginning." Tom explained the events clearly and honestly. How Brock had attacked the Thel merchant. How the humans tried to help. How the Corvans surrounded them and threatened them with slavery. "We gave them every chance to walk away," Tom concluded. "They chose to fight instead." Vex, the Thel merchant, supported Tom's story. The humans only defended themselves. The Corvans were the aggressors. Other witnesses in the bar agreed. The bounty hunters, despite their usual reluctance to talk to security, confirmed that the Corvans had started the fight. Kane looked at his notes, then at the unconscious aliens, then at the humans again. By station law, self-defense was legal. The humans had broken no rules. "No charges will be filed," Kane announced. Clear case of self-defense. But even as he made the official decision, Kane knew this was bigger than a simple bar fight. Word would spread. 6 humans had defeated 6 Corvan warriors in hand-to-hand combat. That kind of news traveled fast in the galaxy. As the security team prepared to leave with the injured Corvans, Kane pulled Jake aside. "This is going to cause problems," the commander warned quietly. "People are going to want answers." "What kind of problems?" Jake asked. "The kind where everyone wants to know how weak humans became so dangerous," Kane replied. "Your species just changed how the galaxy sees you." Meanwhile, across the station, The news was already spreading. A maintenance worker who had witnessed the fight called his cousin on a trade ship. A docking supervisor sent a message to her contacts on other stations. By the time Commander Kane finished his report, dozens of people knew what had happened. The bounty hunter who had been taking bets during the fight was now selling copies of his personal recordings to anyone willing to pay. The footage showed the entire battle from start to finish. In the cantina, Jake began cleaning up the mess while Tom's crew helped move furniture. The humans worked together with the same coordination they'd shown during the fight. "You think this will cause trouble?" Lisa asked, sweeping up broken glass. "Probably," Tom replied. "But what else could we do? Let them beat us down." "No regrets," Ben said firmly. "They got what they deserved." Mike was helping Grix, the old bartender, repair an overturned table. "Sorry about the mess, old-timer." "Do not apologize," Grix said, his 6 arms working to fix a broken leg. "In 60 years, I have never seen such a fight. You honored this place with your courage." Dave found the plasma rifle that had been dropped during the battle. He handed it to Jake. "This belongs to Station Security now, I guess." Jake took the weapon and locked it in a secure cabinet behind the bar, probably for the best. As they worked, customers began returning to the cantina. Word of the fight had spread, and beings from across the station wanted to see where it had happened. Some came to stare at the humans. Others wanted to hear the story firsthand. A group of young fell traders approached Tom nervously. "Is it true?" One of them asked. "Did you really defeat 6 Corvan warriors?" "We defended ourselves," Tom replied, not wanting to brag. "Nothing more." But the aliens saw it differently. To them, humans had just proven they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. An hour later, Jake received his first message from off-station. It was from a trade captain he knew on the inner worlds. "Is it true what they're saying about a fight at your bar?" The message read, "People are saying humans took down a whole squad of Corvan mercenaries." Jake looked at the message, then at Tom's crew still helping clean up. They looked like ordinary freight haulers, tired, working-class people just trying to make a living in space. But they had just done something that would echo across the galaxy. Jake typed back a simple reply, "It's true." Within minutes, his communication system was flooded with messages. News services wanted interviews. Military analysts wanted details. Government officials wanted explanations. The story was spreading faster than anyone could have imagined. On the trade networks, shipping companies started putting out new hiring notices. Human security personnel wanted. Combat experience preferred. On military channels, fleet commanders began discussing new threat assessments for human space. In diplomatic circles, ambassadors started asking questions about human military capabilities. All because of one bar fight on a remote space station. Tom Brady finished bandaging his knuckles and looked around the cantina. It was starting to look normal again, but he knew nothing would ever be the same. "Ready to head back to the ship?" he asked his crew. "Ready when you are, Captain," Lisa replied. As they prepared to leave, Jake called out to them, "Your money's no good here anymore. Drinks are on the house for life." "Thanks, Jake," Tom said, "but we pay our own way." "Then at least take this advice," Jake said seriously. "Be careful out there. After tonight, everyone's going to be watching you." Tom nodded. He understood what Jake meant. The galaxy had just learned something new about humanity, and not everyone would be happy about it. 3 days after the fight at Murphy's bar, the galaxy was talking about nothing else. The footage had spread through every major trade network, military channel, and diplomatic communication system. 6 humans defeating 6 Corvan warriors in hand-to-hand combat was the kind of story that traveled faster than light. On the Corvan homeworld, War Council leader Krex watched the bar fight footage for the 10th time. His massive claws tapped against the metal table as he studied every move the humans made. "How did they fight with such coordination?" he asked his intelligence chief. "Unknown, war leader," the intelligence officer replied. "Our analysis shows they used tactics we have never seen before. They fought as one unit, not 6 individuals." Krex paused the footage at the moment when Tom Brady smiled at Brack. That smile had bothered him from the first viewing. It was not the expression of a frightened prey animal. It was the look of a predator who had just decided to hunt. "Issue new orders," Krex commanded. "All Corvan ships are to avoid unnecessary conflict with human vessels. We need to study this species more carefully." The intelligence officer nodded and left to carry out the orders. For the first time in Corvan history, they were declaring another species too dangerous to fight casually. On the Thel trade worlds, Merchant Council Prime Zelks called an emergency session. The Thel had built their empire on being able to predict which species were threats and which were opportunities. Humans had just moved from one category to another. "The tactical analysis is complete," reported Senior Analyst Vorth. "The humans showed combat skills that exceed our projections by 300%. They are not the peaceful traders we believed them to be." Zelks studied the report with all 4 of his compound eyes. Recommendation? Immediate reclassification. Humans should be moved to the dangerous species category in all trade protocols. We also recommend opening negotiations for mutual defense agreements. The Council voted unanimously. Within hours, Thel trade ships across the galaxy received new orders. Treat humans as equals, not inferiors. On Nexus Station, Murphy's Bar had become the most famous establishment in the sector. Beings from dozens of species made pilgrimages just to see where the fight had taken place. Jake had to hire extra security to control the crowds. "Table 6, tourists would whisper, pointing to where Brock had fallen. "That's where the human captain defeated the Corvan war leader." Jake watched the spectacle with mixed feelings. Business was better than ever, but the attention made him nervous. He'd spent years keeping his bar under the radar, and now it was the most watched place in the system. Tom Brady and his crew had left Nexus Station the morning after the fight, but their reputation followed them. At every port, every trade station, every refueling depot, people wanted to see the humans who had fought the Corvans. "Captain Brady?" A young alien approached Tom at a cargo terminal on Ridian Prime. "I'm a reporter for the Galactic Trade Journal. Could I ask you some questions?" "About the fight?" Tom looked at the reporter, then at his crew unloading freight containers. "What kind of questions?" "People want to know how humans learned to fight like that. Your species was supposed to be peaceful." "We are peaceful," Tom replied. "We just don't let people push us around." The reporter typed notes frantically. "But the footage shows military-level coordination. Are all humans trained fighters?" Lisa Chun overheard the conversation and walked over. "We learned to work together, that's all. Humans survive by helping each other." "But the tactics you used were common sense," Ben Walker interrupted, joining the group. 6 against 6 isn't fair odds unless you work as a team." The reporter left with more questions than answers, but his story would be read by millions across the galaxy. The headline read, "Human Freight Crew Claims Fighting Corvans Was Common Sense." In the halls of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Thorne of the Rigel Collective called for an emergency session. The Council represented 47 different species, and they were all concerned about the same thing. "The human incident has changed the balance of power," Thorne announced to the assembled delegates. "We need to reassess our relationship with Earth and its colonies." The Andromedan delegate, a tall crystalline being named Zara, activated her translation matrix. "Are we declaring humans a threat species?" "That's what we're here to decide," Thorne replied. The debate that followed would last for days, but the conclusion was already clear to everyone in the room. Humans could no longer be dismissed as a minor species. They had proven they could fight, And they had done it in a way that impressed even the galaxy's most dangerous predators. On Earth, Admiral Stone of the Terran Defense Force received a priority message from the Galactic Council. It was not a threat or a demand, it was an invitation. The Galactic Council requests a meeting to discuss mutual defense agreements and expanded trade relationships. The message read, "We believe closer cooperation would benefit all parties involved." Stone read the message twice before calling his staff. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen the galactic powers show this much interest in humanity. "Sir," his aide asked, "what should we tell them?" "Tell them we're interested," Stone replied, "but we negotiate as equals." That phrase would become the foundation of humanity's new relationship with the galaxy. No longer would they be the newcomers, begging for scraps. They would be partners, respected and feared in equal measure. On trade routes across the galaxy, the change was immediate and visible. Pirate crews that had targeted human cargo ships suddenly found other prey. Mercenary groups that had bullied human traders looked for easier targets. The footage from Murphy's Bar had taught the galaxy a simple lesson. Humans were dangerous when threatened, but it had also taught them something else. The humans had not started the fight. They had tried to avoid it. They had only fought when left with no other choice. That restraint, combined with their proven ability to win, made them the most sought-after allies in the galaxy. 6 months later, Jake Murphy stood behind the bar of his cantina, watching the evening crowd. The place was still famous, still crowded with tourists and reporters. But it had also become something else. It had become neutral ground in the truest sense. Species that had been enemies for centuries now sat at the same tables, sharing drinks and stories. The bar where humans had proven their strength had become a place where strength was no longer the only thing that mattered. A young Corvan warrior approached the bar, his armor polished and his weapons ceremonial rather than functional. "Barkeeper," he said respectfully, "I request permission to drink where the humans fought." Jake poured the alien a drink and set it on the bar. "Everyone's welcome here, as long as they follow the rules." "What are the rules?" the Corvan asked. Jake smiled, remembering the night that had changed everything. "Simple. We treat each other with respect. We help those who need help. And we don't start fights we're not prepared to finish." The Corvan nodded solemnly and raised his glass. "To the humans who taught the galaxy that strength without honor is worthless." Jake raised his own glass in return. "To good customers and quiet nights." But as he looked around his bar, filled with beings from across the galaxy, all treating each other as equals, Jake knew that the quiet nights were over. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity, and that respect had changed everything. The bar fight that was supposed to prove human weakness had instead proven human strength. And that strength had earned them something more valuable than fear. It had earned them the galaxy's respect.